Yeah.
mess ups.
Like,
Like it took, I was waiting like an hour for one of my things to
whoa.
render, and it's still like that was the nicest I could get it to look.
Okay, but I mean this. I don't notice anything super weird like specular-wise with this.
Mm-hmm.
Was there like a particular area in your renders that you were like having issues with?
Go to the light ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So that I don't think that's specular. I think that's just what kind of light are you using here?
Just the area lights.
Gotcha. So that might just be. It looks like shadow samples. I'll like break into your Maya file really quick and look at that. Like actually, look at that. Room. Waha. Kill. Nice. All right. So is this your daylighting? I take it.
Yeah, it's upside down. I don't.
That's weird. Cool. All right. At some point, I'm going to go over some like more fun stuff you can do with lights.
Yeah.
But that's like a later problems thing. All right. Oh yeah, that is. What the heck? Okay, that was weird.
Okay, that's my thing.
Yeah. All right. So let me render this backside up. All right. So this looks like your night lighting.
Yeah.
And that didn't seem to be having as many weird issues. It's still like pulling a little weird sample stuff, at least down here. So that might be something where you'd want to go in and... Do you have like a main light in here anywhere? Or like, is it all just from these three lights?
Yeah, they're like candles.
Right.
So I figured they'd be lower. And then we also put a lamp in the room.
Okay.
So one of my group members was doing it, so that would probably be the brightest
Right.
light.
Yeah, that makes sense. It might be a good idea just like at some point to sort of throw the light in there so you get an idea of like, or like, once you know kind of where the bulb or whatever is in that lamp, just sort of like throw it in your scene as a placeholder just so you know. But it looks like, and I mean it's rendering like super slow, but it seems like potentially setting these up isn't horrible. You might honestly just need to go in and play with your like global render settings for this one, because a lot of time, a lot of times shadow areas are going to have the most sort of like specular grossness. So I might even, I'm just sort of like playing with stuff. So in this case, it seems like setting the diffuse samples up a little bit does sort of help with that graininess a little bit more so than just the individual shadow samples. So one thing I would actually maybe recommend is if you like, yes, I mean, it seems like a combination of camera AA and diffuse take care of like a lot. Ooh, hello. Take care of like a lot of the issues. There's still some, but it's definitely less super gross than it was before. One thing I usually recommend with like super, what am I saying? Like really dark scenes where you have like, you know, it's like candlelight or something like that, is to actually kind of fudge it a little bit. Because a lot of times in stuff like Maya, it'll be kind of, or well, it's hard, I guess, with something like an area light to end up lighting the scene enough. So one thing you might do is just sort of like throw in something. Actually, mesh lights would probably be cool because you can get them flame shaped if that's, unless you're covering this, in which case it might not matter. But throw in like one little bright light for sort of a hot spot around the light, and then you might need to just sort of add in like another, just like a very generic sort of dim area light over the whole room, if that makes sense, so that you have light on everything. Like things are actually, you can see them, but then that little light for the candle will sort of help light things up a little bit brighter in that area, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's not entirely uncommon, especially for low light scenes, to have like a crap ton of a lot of lights just kicking around. But yeah, so hopefully that helped. Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, and then my other, I had a question about just sizing everything up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Actual sizes, because I tried, and it seems like it just didn't work. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a setting somewhere, I forget exactly where it is, but I literally just found the other day the setting to scale lights in Arnold, and I'm like, ooh, yes, magic. In terms of the scene itself, what I would probably do is just I don't want your lights. So I'm just going to delete history on all of these. It looks like there maybe had some stuff merged at some point. So I'm just going to group all of this stuff. And again, you could theoretically, like, you put your lights in there if you wanted to. I'd probably just reset them up because I'm paranoid. But just group that, and you said it was in like centimeters and you wanted meters? Feet. All right. So here's my like super dumb gross hack. If you prefer working in feet, I usually do metric just because I do think that whatever the American version of stuff is like super weird. Where am I going? That's not what I wanted. So I'm just gonna switch out my units preferences real quick. So again, if you need this, it's Windows, Windows, settings and preferences, and then if you go under, just click on settings. That's where you find your thing for that. So I'm just going to set this to feet. It should scale up your grid accordingly so that each one of these units is 1 feet. And my usual like super cheap hack for doing this is to just be like, ahaha, I'm going to make basically a giant sad measuring tape out of this plane. And then I'll just take my room group, go on something like top view, and then just sort of scale it up until it's 10 feet wide. That's, I don't know. It's kind of a silly way to do things, but that's how I scale like rings and daggers and pretty much every other thing that I make. So it does work. But yeah. And then once you're done with that, I would just go ahead and, all right, so for the record, apparently needed the scaled about 25 times. You could also just do that. You just go in and just freeze your scale so that you don't accidentally scale it down and shrink it back down to be like 2 inches big. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Anybody else want to look at their projects? Yes. What was your name? Diego? Okay. Yes. Cool. Thank you. And did you have specific questions, I take it? Well,
no, yeah, no, it's just, because, since mine is like a New York City apartment for the night lighting, I left the sky dome a little dim, because, like, it's not, New York's never dark,
right? So you just want feedback on your renders?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. What the things? I really need to email IT, I keep forgetting.
I tried to do, like, a weird, like, idea with the lights, kind of in, like, weird shapes, but...
Yeah. So were you shooting for, like, a mission with this, or?
No, it's just, like, I don't know, because, like, in modern, like apartments and stuff, they always have, like, these weird light designs.
It is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
So it's, like, they just have, like, I don't know, like, the weirdest, like, I've seen some that have, like, branching, like, tree lights hanging
right.
from the ceilings.
Because they're awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, if you really wanted to, you could probably take a poly paint tree and convert it into a light fixture. But yeah, so I mean, like, I feel like this looks pretty reasonable. I think one thing that would help with this a lot is to, if you could find, either find an HDRI that has,
Like,
yeah.
It's kind of difficult because to get like, because I want an HDRI Haven, they don't have much.
Right. They have to have them somewhere, and if they don't, one thing you could do is just find one with a bunch of, no way that's an HDRI. Find one with like colors that are similar to what you want, and then you could just sort of superimpose a photo behind it. As long as the color scheme is similar, like it would probably do something comparable. Like this seems like it would be kind of what you want, but clearly no. But yeah, so I mean there's like a few other places you can download stuff. Usually I just do HDR Haven. I forget what the other ones are off the top of my head, but a lot of times if you Google HDRIs, you can find, like textures.com I think actually does have some. City HDRI? Yeah.
It's like ground level though.
Amazing. So one thing you could do is actually shift your, yeah, like physically shift it down. Or like I said, like if it has the sort of right sort of color scheme that you're going for, just like superimpose another, you know, thing in the background so that it actually displays what you want.
Yeah.
But I mean, these do seem reasonable in terms of like coloring, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably have to shift the one.
Amazing.
Like that a little bit.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, I would recommend just like pick around on the internet a bit. I'll try to compile another, like, some more resources where you can find, like, HDRI stuff. Because there are a few sort of, like, go-to websites. I just don't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah. Cool. Did you have any other questions about stuff, or?
No, it's just,
cool.
Just like lighting, I guess.
And this is like a weird.
A little too dim?
I was gonna say it does feel a little bit too dim. It still feels like most of the light is coming from outside, which honestly might, once you throw an HDRI in there, I have a feeling it'll tone that down like a lot because it'll be a night scene. But yeah, it might not hurt to kick this up a little bit. And also, I am always a fan of coloring your lights. This particular yellow color feels a little weird.
I was thinking of either a white or a yellow, but the white was already cooked for me outside.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, I think it might just be sort of, it's kind of like refine it as you go, see what makes sense. It might also be worth looking into, in case you aren't like a plant nerd or something.
Color temperature?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, it's like Kelvin, what is it called? But these are, yeah, so I mean, here's like a, you know, Kelvin scale of light. This is what plants like, for the record. But yeah, so I mean, like, this is like the standard colors you usually find for lights. And then a lot of times, one thing that I see a lot in modern lights, and I say a lot in at least the 3D printed lights that I look at, is like sometimes I'll just take one of these lights and then pass it through like, right, like a colored shade or something like that. So if that's the case, I would totally buy that yellow. Just
Yeah.
I don't think I would put that in my personal home, but to each their own. But yeah, and then again, it might just, you know, make sense to like, just sort of like, I find it hard to light a scene and then I kind of end up doing lighting as I do texturing, where I'll just sort of like block everything in and see how it looks. Because it might not be, you know, a bad idea to like throw in like, I don't know, maybe they like tea lights or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, I think the lighting and stuff is definitely starting to come along. Did you have any other questions?
No.
Cool. Anybody else want to look at their stuff? All right. Last call. Last call. All right. Chris is dead. I'm gonna have to open more image files. Why did I close that? All right. So before I forget, because I probably will forget.